Damn, Perk did this?
I don't need no one to save me. I was born to be the greatest. All that time in that basement, all that time isn't wasted. Rapping getting faded. I just wanna tell my mom that I made it. Just wanna be the topic of the conversation. Used to rock the gold plated. Now I'm wearing gold chains like I'm famous.
Is marriage even a topic that is in the top 5 of discussions anymore?
I think it is. I think now with a lot of people just having so much fear, I think a lot of fear came out in more open spaces, especially with all this new ways to communicate with each other. Fears of how being in a contract marriage, and I mean that literally like a contract when you get married, getting married that way, there are so many hits you can take. Financially, and your credit with children. Some men feel, men or women feel like, at the end of a divorce, emotionally and financially, you are just traumatized. Even for people who aren't married, men who are going into second marriages, who you want to marry younger, they're going into this with all these fears of, do I even want to do that again? Do I want to have this contract? And what comes with that? I don't think it's over because everyone wants to know that someone's going to be committed to them in some way. I think the commitment is there, but the paper part, the contract, the conditionalness of it, that I think is coming into question.
Good point. Anyone else like to respond to that?
Yeah. Traditionally, I think it's dead, dying, close to dead, life support, however you want to word it. But just because marriage means, honor, duty, and responsibility. And I don't think that these people understand that concept. And, for it to be talked about, for it to be debated, for it to have so much pushback, for one to think that you can realistically, get this harmonious union, that again is just something that was more organic in the past. It's just more opportunistic nowadays. Like she said, it comes with so many ramifications. You got, so many things that can happen on the front or back end. So it's just, people are a lot more less willing to lose what they have, and a lot more, technical when it comes to weighing out the benefits versus the risk. So traditionally, I think it's dead. And I only say that from the standpoint of honor, duty, and respect. I think people are always going to get married on pieces of paper for whatever benefit that serves them. But I think that, that foundation that true marriages stand on, I think that's a thing of the past.
Okay. Chris or Minka want to respond?
I mean, I agree with it. It's a kind of like we talked about dating being the mental health issues in dating, that the manosphere is basically like a reaction to that ill, crazy stuff. It's the same thing with marriages. You're seeing a reaction to what men have suffered in going through marriages that are documented to the government. It's in some form of fashion, we adopted the idea of marriage being a part of the relationship itself. And we gave way to that being the important focal point where, I mean, they're in our marriages. Like, how much more power you want to give? Like, and that's the part where I think it's not just like the men waking up to the ramifications. I think more women understanding this is also looking at the bigger picture of like, why are they in their marriages? This is a private home issue. This isn't a government issue.
Chris, your response.
Yeah, I think it's mostly dying, unfortunately, especially traditional marriage. I think the main reason why it's dying is because people don't embrace responsibility. Like Mr. Harris was saying, people fear the job that it is being a spouse. They think that they're going to get into it, and now they have this lovely title as a wife, and it's going to be roses and sunshine, and is now a happy wife, happy life, and I get everything that they want and they dreamed of. But then it actually ends up being work, and they don't embrace it. They don't see it as being. They don't see that form of servitude as being an honor. You know, they don't see it as building a unit that you can then raise children under that's going to make them stronger. They don't see it as a contribution to future generations. They see it as a loss of their own selfish freedom. And it's very unfortunate. So I think it doesn't become a conversation until it's too late. You know, when she's 44 and she's realizing that, oh, okay, I'm getting all these, you know, these letters in the mail about my I guess life insurance and how I'm going to plan for my death, and realizing I'm going to die alone. So they buy a dog and they hope they can find a man in 2 months that's going to marry them and sweep them off their feet. They go and they freeze their eggs and they pray to what they think is a god.
Wow.
May I say something else, Todd? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. No, go right ahead.
Okay. Well, like I feel really heavy on the topic of conditional and not, you know, an unconditional marriage. And I feel like I'm more on the, you know, I don't want it to be conditional. And I think that kind of freaks a lot of people out, because there's nothing holding anyone in my space. You're here because you want to be here. And I think that is one big thing too. A lot of people who are younger, who you expect to be getting married, wanting to get married, the fact that you have to commit to something and you can't even commit to staying in the school for 4 years. You can't, you know, I mean, there's nothing bad. You don't know what you're going to be doing. And then the thought that you don't know what's going to be coming, I think it just freaks them out. So when you're thinking about conditional marriage, like you just said, Ebony, a lot of women who are getting to the age of 40 the thing they start thinking about is what can this contract bring me? And I'm not saying all marriage contracts, but I'm saying this particular one we're talking about, if they want to get married on paper so bad and they're 40, a lot of times, like you said, I just don't want to be by myself anymore. I don't want, so what do I have to give to get that? And I'm thinking, okay, well, you know, why don't you just worry about being a good person or being with someone you really care about, instead of trying to figure out how you're going to make sure when you die that your bills are paid? Or you see what I'm saying? It's like, that's kind of a strange conversation for me, is to be like, hey, I want to get married to you to make sure that when I die, that maybe my 3 kids will make sure they have life insurance, because you can do that on your own. So if you're trying to find someone to make sure your bills are covered or something like that, to me, that's a little, I don't know, selfish. It doesn't seem like that's benefit anyone but yourself. And so then I can see why you're having problems finding people who want to actually be there for you when you're sick, when you're tired, when you're 50 and your back hurts and you can't do nothing, but they want to sit there and hold your hand. You're not going to find that in a conditional situation usually.
Why they got to be 50, Ms. Polly?
I'm just saying, listen, my back hurts now and I'm 30. I'm letting you know. And it's what it is.
Mika, you and I have had a conversation on your show, and you know, as a social scientist, as an economist, I think that all relationships are in commerce, are a form of commerce. That assuming rational human beings and rational thinking, that everything we do is based upon benefits and costs. And if the benefits outweigh the cost, we do the action. If the benefit is equal to the cost, we're indifferent. But if the costs outweigh the benefits, assuming rational behavior, we don't do it.
Right.
So all relationships then are, in my view, are based in commerce. Now, when I say commerce, it doesn't necessarily mean dollars and cents, but it's based upon benefits and costs. And so sometimes when we make choices and decisions early on, if we don't properly vet individuals, or we don't properly take the time to, as Mr. and Mrs. Harris did, have more of a traditional feeling out process, looking at benefits and costs, right? And then saying, okay, this is something that I'm willing to be committed to. That is, I believe, is something that is missing in modern day relationships, because we look at a big butt and a smile, or we're looking to see that he's got a fat wallet, and we make decisions based upon emotions and sexual intensity or desire, as opposed to, let's just take a look at benefits and costs as it relates to how I can be self-actualized, and maybe how I can also feed or feed into this person as well. Your thoughts on that?
That was a whirlwind, wasn't it? I think that it's a lot more practical. I think the way that I simplify that whole thing is people are dating off of instant gratification and what they immediately get, whether it's like looks or whatever, versus dating with a purpose. And I tell people all the time, I date with the purpose of, could I see this person raising my children? That's what my, like, when I am dating, I'm assessing that in that person to see if it matches with what I want for my family, for my life.
Okay. But that's not something that you can see instantly in a pair of jeans, right?
No, of course not. And that's the thing. That's the difference between dating with purpose and not, right?
Okay.
Because when you're not dating with a purpose, you're picking the hottest guy or the hottest girl with the biggest wallet, with the biggest butt, and all that other stuff. That's the instant gratification. That's not going to tell me if he's financially literate, which I'm kind of like trying to get better at. But it's not going to tell me if he believes in like spanking or not spanking, because I don't want to discipline. I don't want to spank kids.
Okay.
I don't. I do believe in it, but I don't want to do it just because I come from a background where it was done too far. I don't trust. In my DNA, I'll be responsible with that. So I'm like, let me not even go there. I need someone that's going to be the discipliner.
Gotcha.
Things like those are things that I'm looking for, right? You're not going to know that off of a picture or anything. You're going to know that by getting to know the person. And it's like I was asking Ebony earlier, like part of the other side of, yeah, we have more of a selection. It's also easier to filter out that selection because it's right away the comments that are made, like, it's rating, what you doing, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, no Netflix, no chill. I'm good. Thank you. And I usually like to say like wrong tree because dogs like to like pee on a tree.
Right. Let me. I'm gonna come to Ebony and Miss Polly regarding that soliloquy that I just made regarding commerce. But I want to go to Mr. and Mrs. Harris to ask you your thoughts on what I said there.
But that does go. I just want to clarify that does go into commerce, dating with a purpose. When you're looking for those things, those are values that he brings and that I can bring.
Absolutely, and that's part of the benefits conversation there. So, Mr. and Mrs. Harris, you're on mute. Okay.
No, I would absolutely agree that relationships are absolutely transactional now, and like I was alluding to, our relationship, I think, the emphasis is on you. You can run from yourself, but when you turn around, you're gonna be right there. So that level of sophistication is required. Those probing questions, judgment of character. Like if the person puts one over on you, you didn't vet good enough. Like you have to take some level of accountability. So, I'm kind of in the middle there because I think people lack a certain level of sophistication when it comes to dating. They just want to take the easy way out and blame. But when it comes to their belt, comes to the dinners they eat in the restaurants, when it comes to, the venues that they frequent, when it comes to the type of shoes that they wear, all of these things are sophisticated. Their car is foreign. It's a certain level of sophistication that's displayed at sometimes. And then when it comes to dating, it's like, oh, he fooled me and she pulled one over on me. But like you said, BBD told us back in the 90s, don't trust a big butt and a smile. That's how most guys pick,
Right.
So they don't even understand what exotic means. So now all of the girls that don't have big butts or BBLs have now become exotic. So now you guys are just getting run of the mill every day, manufactured additives and preservatives, while the guys who are looking for women with intelligence, for women that with appreciation, with admiration of men, that were raised by men, that understand what men want, that care about what men want. These are the women that are going to get husbands. These are the women that are going to, land men. And if men have to go to other places to find these women, the only thing you can say to them is I hope you find love. And, that's a whole nother show for a whole nother night. But again, I just think it's a certain level of sophistication that is lacked amongst all people, men and women, and they would rather blame the opposite sex instead of working on themselves to become a better version of themselves.
And to add, there's no lessons taught. it's not like there are lessons being taught as far as dating. You know what I mean? When we were growing up, at 12, you want to go ask your girlfriend out. You had an uncle that's going to let you know, go to her parents' house, knock on the door, ask if it's okay to take up the street to get a slice of pizza. You might have the big brothers follow you behind, but it was a whole different level of teaching, teaching us to court. And now there's no time. People don't have time and space for that. Answer my text. You didn't look at it fast enough. The drop down didn't come soon enough. So, I'm not instantly gratified, by your response. So I'm going to.
I never thought of that.
It's a different time.
Yeah.
I forgot they used to do that. You're right.
Yeah. Brothers would follow up the street. I didn't know, of course. I found out later. But yeah, that's how it went. It was a little teaching going on. We were learning in elementary school to cooperate with each other because we had plays, we had dances. We had things where we had to be forced to communicate with each other, even if we didn't come from homes like that. But now kids are taught to be silent in class. They can't communicate. They're going to get in trouble. They can't even talk at lunch. There's no recess outside as much. It's just a whole different time. So they expect us to grow up and be 18 and 19, and they learn from social media how to court. They have no clue.
Well, I also had the belt or Hot Wheels tracks. Ebony, thoughts on that, on the idea of commerce?
Yeah, I agree. Everything that's been said has been great. I would say one thing that I would add is that nowadays, I think sometimes people do the benefit cost analysis, but they don't do it in the right time frame. So I think they do it based on what they can get within the next hour, the next day, versus the next 30 years. And I think that affects their ability to make the right decisions. They think, oh, this might be, some fun for tonight, but they don't think this is going to make a good mother or father to my children in 10, 15 years. So I think that's probably one of the other things that's kind of going wrong.
Okay. Ms. Polly, I want to address what you were saying. You were talking about the courts and you were talking about marriage on paper. And I agree. I think that when you're talking about the state, and the state requires that people buy licenses and all that stuff, because that's a way that they can actually pilfer your estate, that they can actually get their hands into the finances of the household. And I think what has happened in today's system is that the man of the house, or the head of the house, if you will, for lack of a better, I'm a traditionalist. I don't mean any disrespect to anybody that doesn't like the term man of the house, but let's just say the head of the household becomes the government, and the government then runs the entire relationship. And so they've taken the man out of the home and they've replaced it with the government. And so anytime that there is a breakup, there is going to be a prenuptial agreement, whether it's between the two people that make that agreement before they get married, or the state issues a prenuptial agreement. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely believe that, I think it's changed over time, and I myself don't want to feel like that contract is something that can contradict how I move in my house. And I want to be clear on this. It doesn't mean that, like, okay, if I feel sad for my husband, I'm just going to leave him, or he's not giving me what I want, I can just leave and take all the benefits. What I'm saying is, a lot of times, if you didn't vet correctly, like everyone else saying, you didn't vet correctly, you didn't do what you were supposed to do. What ends up happening is, if you figure that out and you're like, you know what, this isn't the right person for me, this is not right, and I made a mistake. When you realize you made a mistake, even maybe you went to counseling and they said, you guys really are having a tough time. Maybe, instead of sitting here until your kids get out of school, maybe you should separate because it's harder on the children or whatnot. And you can't even really make that decision in a free place because you're so concerned about everything that's going to hit you if you decide to leave, to maybe even make a better life for your children or anything like that, because you can't do it without these big consequences. And there's already enough consequences and actions that happen when you separate from someone. And that's what I like what Mr. Harris was saying. There, people think there's not, but you're responsible basically for a whole nother person, and you don't even realize it. And what they do and their actions affect you, right? And so when you got into this contract, not only are those, you're getting hit with that afterwards, after you get married, now you're emotionally going through all this. Why didn't this work out? All this. And now you have to let the government come and tell you where your kids may go. And if you're not there enough, you get punished for that.